want to start first by showing the modern user interface. I feel like this is something that has been talked about for years now. Acumatica has been touting the modern user interface for at least the last 3 years that I've been involved with Acumatica and Stellar One. And it is a true game changer for the evolution of this product. And so I will show you exactly what the modern user interface looks like and to give you a sneak peek. Then we're going to show report automation. So this is not, the automation of reports and sending reports out automatically is not a new feature or a new capability in Acumatica, but the way of doing it got a little bit easier. So it's a small change, but it's something that definitely makes that function easier in the system. So I'll show you that. Then we're going to get into lot serial number attributes. And this is another very highly requested capability from Acumatica users, specifically Acumatica users that deal with lot and serial numbers for some of their items, and being able to get data and track data at the lot serial number level. So super excited to show you what that looks like. I feel like Acumatica really hit it out of the park with that capability. And then finally, I'm going to show you distribution requirements planning. A lot of you might be familiar with the term MRP, or materials requirements planning, which helps manufacturing companies with their inventory planning and purchasing and recommendations based off of forecasts. So distribution companies said, hey, how about us? We need something as well. So because MRP was only available for manufacturing companies in Acumatica before. So now Acumatica has come out with distribution requirements planning, and it's a really great tool. So I'm excited to show you that today as well. Right? So without further ado, I'd like to hop into Acumatica. For 2025 R1, you have the ability to enable the modern user interface. This is under what's called managed availability, which basically means that it's not automatically available for your production instance quite yet, but it is available on every screen. And it's not available on every screen, but if you'd like to start using it, you can actually apply to be a tester. And that basically just requires you to provide user feedback directly to Acumatica. And if you're interested in signing up for this, you can reach out to Carl and he can help assist you in that application process. So one main reason for the UI refresh was some user feedback from Acumatica users about having an interface that would allow changes to screen configuration without having to change code. Okay, so with the modern user interface, I can now tell you that this is possible. All right, so we're going to actually go to the purchase order screen to show this. And in order to turn on by the way, this is the modern user interface here, right? For you Acumatica users, you're probably noticing there's a little bit of a difference. In order to turn this on or off, you have to go to the gear icon and you can click on switch to. So I can either switch back to classic UI, or if I'm on the classic UI, you can then turn on the modern user interface as well. The great thing is that you can initiate this change per screen instead of turning it on for all screens across the system. So if you only want to test this out for one screen or something like that, that's very possible. So if I want to start configuring, I can just go into screen configuration. And this is going to take us into our form configuration mode. Right, and you'll see some gear icons now up here in the header section. So that we have our separate sections here for header information, some vendor information, as well as totals, document totals. So we can configure each of these to our own liking. So if I go into the gear icon, I want to point out a couple little icons that are shown here on the right. So what's on the right is actually what's being broadcasted on your screen. If I click on the eyelid icon, that allows you to hide fields or make fields visible. All right, so maybe the promised on date is not something we need to see at the header level, so we can click on the eye icon and then it's going to hide that for us. The pin icon is actually going to pin fields for us so that they're always visible even if you collapse the top view. So let's go ahead and let's click on the pin icon next to vendor reference number because we always want that to be shown. Now, if I click apply, you can see the changes are applied right away. And now if I go to collapse this, you can see that the vendor reference number sticks along with these other fields here at the top. Now I can go down through and I can do the same changes to these other header sections here in the PO. And by the way, you can add a number of different fields to this header section. So you can open these up to search for them, or you can actually just use this convenient search bar to find a field and then add it to the main section here. All right. So let's say description is something that we don't need to see, so we're going to hide that. And you know what? While we're at it, currency too, because we only deal with US currency. All right, so we can apply that change. And then maybe on this document totals column, our vendors don't really give us discounts. So maybe we don't need to see the line discounts and the document discounts fields. All right, so if we are comfortable with the changes we made, we can then click apply to all. And then we get to, it's basically just reminding us that we're overriding our personal configuration. Again, this is for your own instance of Acumatica. This isn't going to be a universal change across the system. Okay, so now that was the top section. Now we also have the ability to configure our tabs with a few simple clicks as well. So if I go back into the screen configuration, you'll see a little gear icon here next to the tabs. So and this is where we can pick and choose which tabs we want to have visible or hidden. So let's say we just don't need PO history and the prepayments tab. Once I apply, you'll see that those tabs get taken away from this main screen view so that they're essentially hidden. All right, so again, this is something that could have been done before the modern user interface, but just required obviously a few more steps through customization project. All right, now this is super simple to make a change like this. Also want to mention too, if you go in the other tabs, you will also see the gear icon in some sections, so you can configure these to kind of make them your own as well. All right, last thing I want to mention is that you can always reset to default settings. All right, so first of all, I'm going to apply those changes that I made to the tab level here. But if I go back into screen configuration, I have the ability to reset to default. All right, and it's going to confirm that it's going to override everything that I've configured. And you'll see that those fields come back, and then I can apply to all. Another thing I actually want to mention too is that under this little clipboard icon, you have the ability to save your configuration and then export it. You can share it with a colleague if they want to import it and have the same configuration as you for a particular screen. All right, so that capability is also available as well. All right, so again, that was the modern user interface. Again, great step in the evolution of the Acumatica product and increasing usability and efficiency in the system. Right, so let's go ahead and let's go into our next topic or next new capability, which is report automation. So as I mentioned earlier, while the ability to automatically send out reports is nothing new in any regard, the way you can set up the automation has completely changed and is now much easier and user-friendly. So before, Acumatica gave you the ability to send out a report via a business event. All right, so we're going to go into the business event screen just to kind of refresh your memory. All right, and I'm going to go into one of these business events where we're sending out an invoice automatically. And if I go to the subscribers tab and I click into the subscriber ID, this is where we need to create an email template. So obviously this one is already created, but this email template is going to be used each time this email notification is sent out. And then we have the ability to actually link the report that's going to be sent with this email template right here. All right, so even though this accomplishes the task of sending out this report automatically, the feedback from users was that this process was just a little arduous. It was a multi-step process, and sometimes the inquiry needed to be created first, so that was another whole step. So Acumatica took this feedback and made some changes to make sending out reports easier. So let's go to the sales order workspace, and we're going to go into the sales order or sales profitability by item and order report. This is a really great report, by the way, if you're not currently using it. And we will see a new tab here called email notifications. All right. If we want to schedule this report to get sent out, we can click on schedule report. And this is going to open up our email template screen, right? So this is where we can define who we want to send this report to and what we want to include in the body. On the attached reports tab, we can see that the report is already attached there for us. So that's one less manual step that we need to do. And then also we can choose the report format that this gets delivered in. So right now it basically defaults to PDF, but you can also choose to send this in Excel or HTML as well. And if you actually choose HTML, that's just a little tip, you can choose to then embed this report in the body of the email. Okay, so that's a cool little tip as well, if that's something that is interesting to you. All right, and then if we click on Send by Schedules, here we have the ability to then create the actual schedule when this reports gets sent out. So this opens up the automation schedule screen. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this screen if you have created automated schedules for other business processes, maybe like converting your sales orders to shipments, or maybe your completed shipments to invoices. All right, so this is where you can define how often we want to send this report and when we want it to send out. All right, so again, this is definitely not a groundbreaking new capability by any stretch, but definitely one of the many small improvements that Acumatica has made to the system just to make it more user-friendly and allow you to work more efficiently. Okay. All right. So capability number 3 that I'd like to cover today is lot serial number attributes. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, this is another request a lot of companies who regularly manage lot and serialized items had, is they wanted a better way to track information at the lot or serial number level. This is considered an experimental feature. So Derek, what does that mean? Well, it means that it is available in your production instance, but you need to enable it in your enable disable feature screen so that you can turn it on and start using it. All right. It's been given this designation as Acumatica is not fully supporting it yet, and it's not been made available in all areas of the system. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we can do with lot serial number attributes. So I'm going to go to the lot serial classes preferences screen. All right, and for those using lot serial numbers already, you will be familiar with this screen, as this is where you determine how you'd like your lot serial numbers to be tracked. All right, I'm going to go into the SRF serial lot and serial class here, and you're going to see a new tab called attributes. All right, and this is going to allow us to collect additional data for lot or serialized items. As you can see, I have already added 2 attributes so that items that belong to this lot or serial class will allow me to capture the color and engraving text when we receive these items into inventory. Okay, so let's see what this looks like in action. I'm going to go to our purchase order screen, and I'm going to open up our most recent purchase order. So on this purchase order screen, we can see that we have an order in for our vendor with this widget item for a quantity of 2. Okay, so let's pretend that these 2 widgets have showed up on our receiving dock, and we are then ready to receive them into inventory, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create a PO receipt that's going to show the inbound movement of inventory into our warehouse. And once I get to the PO receipt screen, the first thing I want to do to capture serial number attributes is click on line details. All right, and this is where we can assign a serial number. All right, so we already have kind of a sequence going on here. And I'm just going to add a couple additional ones. All right, and then we have the ability to add a manufacturer lot or serial number if that's necessary. And by the way, up to this point, this is all standard functionality. This now, next, is where this is new functionality. So there's a new part of the screen that allows us to enter attributes for each specific serialized item. All right, so I'm going to make sure that I am on the 17 serial number here, and then I'm going to mark this as a black color with an engraving text of Derek. Then I can move on to serial number 18, and I can choose a completely different color. And we're going to engrave this with Carl, because I know Carl likes the color red. All right, so we can go ahead and then click OK. And so now we have basically input specific characteristics for these unique serialized items. All right, so and then we can go ahead and release this document, but we're probably going to want to enter in a reference vendor reference number first. Okay, and once this purchase receipt is executed, we will now have those items in stock. And so let's say that our sales team is now, let's that was our purchasing hat. Let's go ahead and put our sales hat on now. So let's say that our sales team is making a sale for this widget item, right? So we have a customer that's interested in one of these widgets, and we want our sales team to be able to see what we have in stock and choose a particular serialized item, right? So I can go to a new sales order screen. We're just going to create one here from scratch. All right, and I'm just going to pick our top customer here. And before we even add an item here, what we can actually do if we're trying to sell a lot serialized item is we can go to these ellipses here, and you'll see a new function that's called add lot or serial number, right? So we can click on that. And then we need to search for our inventory item that we're trying to sell. And what it's going to do now is it's going to actually bring up the complete list of serialized items along with those attributes. As you can see now, we have the color and the engraving text. And by the way, I chose 2 attributes, but you can have really as many as you want. So this can be quite long or quite short, depending on how much you want to track for your serialized items or lot items. So we can see these here. You can see that we have a quantity of 1 for each. And so we're going to just check these off, and then we can add them to the sales order. All right. And now you can see that they actually appear on 2 separate lines, again, because there are 2 unique serial numbers with unique identifiers in the attributes now. All right. So then we have the ability at this point to, of course, save our sales order, and then, our warehouse team can then ship this out the door when they are ready. All right. So that was the lot serial number attributes. A really, in my opinion, a really great addition to Acumatica. Right. Finally, today, I'd like to show you distribution requirements planning. So the goal for distribution requirements planning is to look out at all items in the system during the regeneration of inventory planning and see what needs to be purchased. Right. In addition to demand, you can also generate or upload your own forecasts, which can be included in DRP as well. So I'll show you how you can do that at the very end. All right. I'm going to go into the stock item profile for this metal spring item. And as you know, the stock item sheet houses all of the item information for your items in the system. I am really only concerned with a couple settings today. First is the planning method here found under the General tab. You need to make sure that it's set as DRP in order for this item to be considered in inventory regeneration planning. All right. And if you have particular items that you don't want to have DRP pick up, that's okay. You can just make sure that the planning method is set to none. Okay. And then the other thing we want to look out just real quick is the inventory planning tab. We can see that the source is purchase. So this is an item that we are purchasing. We are not making in-house. And we can see that we have a safety stock of 5, all right, which means we need to have at least 5 on hand at any given time. All right. So that is some settings that have to be in place for the stock item. And then let's actually look at a source of demand. So I'm going to go to a sales order here that we have in the system. And it's for this metal spring item, as you can see, and it's actually for a quantity of 5. So this customer is interested in ordering a quantity of 50 from us. Now, of course, we can see the little caution icon here that is basically telling us we don't have enough in stock to satisfy this order in this warehouse. All right. And we can double verify that by looking down here, and we can see that we have nothing on hand, nothing available. Okay. So we're definitely going to need to purchase some of these before we can fulfill this order. All right. So let's go ahead and let's dig into DRP. So it's accessible from the inventory planning tab, or from the, I should say, the inventory planning workspace. And I'm going to click into regenerate inventory planning. All right. As you can see, just like a lot of screens in Acumatica, this screen has automated scheduling capabilities. So you can set it to, you can basically set it up to run whenever you want to. Okay. Multiple times a day, once a week, however often you'd like to. Obviously, for today's example, I'm going to run this manually. All right. So I'm going to click on process. And by the way, and there's a good bit of items actually in my demo environment, and it actually runs really quickly, as you can saw. That was only about 5 seconds. Okay, so now that we have regenerated our inventory planning, we need to see the results that the system is, suggesting, right, for us to purchase or transfer. So let's go into our inventory planning display screen. All right, and you will see the 2 metal spring items. All right, we have the metal spring item down here with a quantity of 5. That is going to satisfy our safety stock number. And then we have the metal spring item for a quantity of 50 that's actually going to satisfy that open sales order that we have. And if we scroll to the right, we have the ability to drill down into that sales order to see the details behind it. And so we can see that document number that is requiring this purchase. Okay. The other thing that you can do too is you can actually leverage your results by item side panel in here to see complete planning results for the item in one consolidated view. All right. So, the way we would read this is that we have the 5 safety stock minus the 50 for that order when it ships out. So we are projected to have 5 on hand. All right. So basically we're ordering 55, 50 are going out the door right away. We'll be left with that 5 to satisfy our safety stock. Okay. So if we want to purchase these, we can initiate that. One thing I'm going to point out real quickly is that this action date column could be useful for you. So you can determine which items you need to purchase first. Action date is based on promise by date on the sales order, if there is a sales order attached to it, and as well as lead time for the vendor that you're purchasing from. All right. So this is going to help you identify which items you need to sell or which items you need to purchase first. All right. So then at this point, if we want to purchase both of these, we can click the check mark next to both of those, click on the purchase button. We can select our vendor that we want to purchase from, and we can create. All right. And just like that, the system is going to create that purchase order for us. All right. Now, one last thing very quickly. As I mentioned, you have the ability to generate your own forecast. So if I go back into the inventory planning screen, I can click on generate forecasts. And the system is going to pull all items with demand into this screen, right? We can choose how many years of sales history we want the system to look at for demand to determine inventory planning for this current year. So, right, we're just going to look at 1 year of history. And then you can set a factor and a growth rate. So let's just say that we're expecting a 5% growth in this year. So we can set that to 5 and then click calculate. And we can see that the system has looked at the previous year and added these quantities with the percentage change in growth rate based on our previous year. All right. So I'm just going to check one of these off and process it. So it now removes it from the generate forecast screen. And if I go back and regenerate my inventory planning, and then go back into my inventory planning display screen, we can see now that that Lego item is now available here. So one-time purchase items from forecast are now included in this inventory planning display screen, and you have the ability to then purchase those items from here. Okay. Last thing I want to mention is that this is the only capability that I showed today that encompasses a full module, right? It's the inventory planning module in Acumatica. So it will come at an additional cost. And as a reminder, you would pay only for the module cost. The cost to implement this module would be covered under your Stellar One subscription pricing if this is something that you're interested in implementing.